Hello everybody and welcome back. We are very excited this week to just share with you a little bit more.
Yes.
And I just want to kick off with in chapter 6, we are still in chapter 6, but a little bit earlier in chapter 6, Jesus sent out his 12 disciples.
Yeah.
And we spoke about what he said to them, what to do, and he gave them a bit of a format as they need to go out and pray for people and heal the sick. And now we see his disciples coming back with testimonies. That's that.
Exciting.
I love that. Yeah. They said they shared with him what has happened and the things that have happened. And that reminds me the importance of testimony, how important it is for us, Garth, to share what God is busy doing, because it just builds us, builds our faith. Eh?
Absolutely, yeah. In Timothy, actually, it says, Paul writing to Timothy says at some stage to him, and let those who are being taught or discipled give feedback to those who are teaching them.
Yes.
So that they may be encouraged.
Yeah.
So sometimes we even think it's just for us to be encouraged, but we don't realize how much it means when we go to that life group leader that we're walking a road with, or the youth leader, or a pastor, or somebody else in the church, and just say, listen, I want to tell you what happened this week. We forget that those people also desperately need encouragement.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, it's great.
But other thing that happened in one of the other Gospels, Matthew actually brings it about clearer, is that whole connection between Jesus' cousin was just killed, beheaded. And that news reached him. And it looks like that happened around the same time that the disciples came back and they brought their feedback.
Very good news, and then here's this news of his
really hard
cousin
news.
dying. Yeah.
But the response of both of those is that Jesus says to his disciples, come away with me across the lake. Let's go to an isolated place so that we can just be by ourselves a while.
Yeah.
And you can see the necessity for both. We just need to give feedback a bit. Let's learn from what your experience was. Why was that guy healed? Why not this one? You know, let's go speak about these things privately. And on the other side, Jesus just personally is a man, just like us. And his loving cousin was brutally murdered.
Yeah. And the other part for me there is also to give thanks, to give the glory back to God. I remember hearing a guy preach once that said everything, whatever he preaches, he at the end of the time, it's almost like he takes it all, he goes quietly in his room off and he just gives it back to the Lord. All the glory back to God.
It's not mine.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump forward, because in our next story, we see that Jesus pushes through with it, because they come on the other side of the lake. The crowds hear, oh, Jesus is moving across, and they run along the side of the lake. And by the time they get to the other side, this crowd is standing there, waiting for Jesus and his disciples. Now, he wants to be by himself. He desperately needs to be by himself. His disciples need that private time. And yet his response is what?
Yeah, it says he had compassion on them. Hey? They were like a sheep without a shepherd.
He loved them.
He loved them.
And he was willing to put his own hurt aside, his own needs aside, and minister to them. But that's why I'm saying I'm jumping a bit, because he is about to minister, and you're about to tell us about the feeding of that crowd, the miracle that happened. But Jesus still pushes through. And after the crowd is fed, he lets his disciples go immediately across the lake after that miraculous meal. And then he disperses the crowd. They go home, full stomachs. And then he goes up the mountain by himself. And he and the Father spends time together.
Yeah.
So while on the other side, we have to see the love of Jesus, that he's willing to put himself aside, his own needs aside, and care for the crowd, care for the people, love them despite himself. He also recognizes he cannot do without that private time alone with the Father.
Yeah.
Angus Buchan, I often get these clips about him, there's daily thoughts, and I think it was last week he said this incredible thing. He says, you have to speak to God about people before you speak to people about God. I think it takes it so nicely together.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's a good reminder, Garth. And then we see, the other part that we see in this is we see that they are now, Jesus got off the boat, he had compassion, and then there was ministry happening again, and he was teaching them. And his disciples came to him, they said, Jesus, it's getting late, we're in a remote place. These guys must be hungry by now. They were probably hungry by now. And then Jesus says this to them. So they say, Jesus, you send them home. Just send them home. But he's not worried. He's like, why do you want to send them home? He said, but they need something to eat. And he says, I love his part. He says, you give them something to eat.
Yes.
It's so interesting.
Was Jesus just being funny with them? Or did he really have faith in their ability?
Yes, I really believe that.
Yes.
And that just, I think of that in that moment, just what we said now, they saw testimonies, or they brought testimonies, they saw miracles happening, and it was great. They brought the news back to Jesus, and then the next moment, there's something else, and it looks a bit bigger than them. And they go like, oh, wait, we only got so little. We cannot feed these guys.
Yeah.
And Jesus says, but you feed them. And it often reminds me of the fact that when we look at stuff and we go, but I can only pray for this. Oh, but this guy's got no legs, or he's paralyzed. Where's the other oaks? Bring them. Somebody must pray for them, but I can't do it. And Jesus goes, no, you do it.
Yeah.
That challenges me.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's beautiful how Jesus then, he pushes through that lack of faith, because he doesn't just take it upon himself and says, okay, let me solve the problem.
Yes.
You guys step aside, watch me. He takes it as a teaching moment and he says, all right, go and see what you have.
Yeah, bring what you have,
Isn't that just such a beautiful picture of, in any circumstance, bring what you have.
Yeah.
God gave me that person to pray for. You go with what you have.
Yes, Garth, I honestly, I love that, because he doesn't expect us in that moment to have it all together.
Yeah.
He says, okay, guys, I'll be with you in this. And that's the beautiful part. Matthew says, I'll be with you to the end of the age. Matthew 28. So he is with us in this moment. He says, bring what you have and let's see what we can do with it.
Yes.
And then the awesome part is everybody gets fed. Everybody has food. And then they had more than what they started with.
Yes, literally a basket full for every one of the disciples.
Yeah.
So they load that boat with much more than what they could ever come with.
That's incredible. And isn't that just a reminder for us that through us giving and blessing and stepping out in faith, we grow.
Yes.
We grow more, and at the end, we do look more like Jesus, and we have more to give.
It reminds me about what Jesus said at some stage. He says, pray and ask the Father so that your joy may be full.
Yeah.
And all of us who have prayed for somebody before and saw God moving in a powerful way, or prayed for a desperate situation and God broke through with provision, all of us know how it feels like afterwards. It feels like you've got the basket full.
Yeah.
It's your joy is filled up, your faith is filled up. Suddenly you feel, I've got a testimony to share. I've got faith to run with.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
It always feels like whenever you pray for somebody and you see the Lord move, it almost feels like I got more blessed than that person.
Yes.
They go, oh, thank the Lord, and they bless, but oh my God, thank you that I could be a part of that. That was amazing.
Yeah. And I think it reminds us that just that humbling thing, it's not me. I didn't multiply the bread. They didn't multiply the bread. No, they just did what they were told. They were just faithful in handing out. Yes. And it's like sort of like I'm the electrical cord and the current ran through me. And now I'm alive.
Yeah. So for me, if I can take it, just hit it a bit home, I think something to learn out of this is the fact that we all have got something to give.
Yes.
There's something already that and some of us, I believe most of us somewhere down the line have seen the Lord move in one way or another. And we shared some testimonies about it. But somewhere we get caught up and we think, oh, but I don't have enough faith for this, or I can't pray for that person, or that person I can never lead to Jesus. I don't think it can happen. But God says, whatever you have, bring it. And we all got something to bring. But it brings us back to the place where we need to spend time with God. That's so important. We have to have quiet time with Him. We have to focus on Him. And through that, bring what you have, step out in faith, and see the Lord multiply that. And it's a reminder for me, it's not us by ourselves. Filled by the Holy Spirit, led by the Holy Spirit. And that makes it a very powerful team, eh?
Yeah. Absolutely supernatural. And God, please help us in that. I pray that you will stretch our faith for those things that we think this is beyond me. And we just humbly admit before you, God, it is beyond us. And that's why it needs your intervention. It needs you to work through us, Father. And we just lay it before you and say, please, God, we trust you. Use us and let us see you working, Lord. That's our joy.